Wow, guys, can you believe it? We're back again. Tell a friend. It's the Dip Podcast. I can't believe it. It's been so long. It's been so long, but we're finally here recording another very special episode for y'all. We even have a very special guest with us today, but we'll introduce him very shortly. First, let's who are you guys? What's going on here? It's been a while. People forgot your names.
Who's going first? Me? Okay. Subby Sub, Cash Money, Sub the Savage.
What up? It's your boy Kevin, aka Atticus Warhol, aka Lab the Rat. Back at it again.
You already know who it is. It's your boy Q. I miss y'all. And oh my gosh, today's special guest. Please let the people know who you are.
Hello, my name is Alfonso Juarez. You might also know me as Finito Juarez.
Yeah.
I'm an artist, Mexican, doing cool shit here and there. I wish I had more of like a sick ass pseudonym, like a name, but yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, we're happy to have you here today. So it's interesting, we were just having a conversation prior to, initiating the pod, and Alfonso was telling us that in your neighborhood, so wait, first, tell us a little bit about where you're from.
So I'm from Van Nuys, California, in the San Fernando Valley. It's like not as celebrated part of LA, but I mean, that's been my home my whole life. Like there's so much there that has like really influenced me as a person, my kind of like artistic taste and everything that I love about LA kind of like resides mostly there. And yeah, I mean, I really like love so much of the Valley, and I'm like very partial to all like the Valley communities, whether it's like Van Nuys, Pacoima, Studio City, like Sherman Oaks. Like there's so much to it, and like obviously there's like issues with like like richer areas versus poorer areas, but like it is such a huge melting pot.
Yeah, that's dope. So you've been pretty much like a LA native, LA County native, like your whole life, and a lot of things have been changing, huh?
It feels like too.
Definitely. I mean, we're really seeing like gentrification on in full force, and like obviously you grow up in these lower income neighborhoods, and you see like I was born in Van Nuys, but I grew up in North Hollywood for like a little bit, and this was like prior to the metro being built, so it was like very run down, kind of like, it didn't feel as safe to me. That was home though.
Yeah.
I was like right around the corner of like the Circus Liquor. That's why like I use that image a lot in my art. And when the metro came in, stuff started changing, started seeing like new apartments, the NoHo Arts District and all that good stuff. And it's like a really like, bustling area now. I was there the other day, and, the straws are no longer plastic. So
Yeah, that's when when you got the paper straw.
Shit is different now.
Another straw.
Yeah. There's like oat milk. There's like 6 different milk options.
This is a piece of pasta. It was sucking through a macaroni.
And it's interesting because like now there's definitely a different type of culture there, and on one hand, like you're happy about seeing like this neighborhood that you grew up in that didn't feel as safe before change, but you're no longer seeing the faces that made that place.
Yeah.
And so not as many panaderías, like stuff like that. So on one hand, it's like good to see that change, but also like, you miss a lot of like the stuff that you grew up with, and also seeing it change feels a little different to you, because it's no longer the exact home that you had.
But then, like you're talking about a particular, like was it a coffee shop that you came across?
It was a coffee shop, and they were very much using like Aztec and Mayan symbolism, and I like obviously I was eating it up. Like I love incorporating those aspects
With fire, yeah.
art. Like that's very cool to me, and also seeing that represented so that kids can see that and be like, oh, dope, like I've seen that before, that's really cool. But then you see who owns these stores, and it's like they don't look like us. They're not from Mexico. Like, so it's also this like, damn, like the platform's there, but it's like who is giving this message out. And if you're using culture as a marketing ploy without actually appreciating it or educating about that culture, you're no longer uplifting it. You're like,
You kind of bastardizing it in a way.
yeah,
It's like, because it's just interesting. It's like kind of taking the heart and soul of a place, but then keeping the aesthetic of it, or keeping like a particular, like, oh, we'll keep like the facade of like what this place was to kind of keep the locals happy, or to kind of have like a little flavor to it, you know, where it's just like, yeah, but then I don't know.
I got a question though. Was that art and like exterior already like that before they moved in, or did they purposely like?
Yeah, so I don't think it necessarily was, because a lot of art was also like branded with the coffee shop and like, stuff like that. So, but on here, and here's the thing, like on one hand, like, are they paying Mexican artists to do that? That's one thing. But are they like using it and profiting off of culture?
Yeah.
Like, it for me, like, what's important is authenticity and like appreciation.
Sure.
Like, I feel like that you can't really do wrong for moving like that, and I guess that intent is important to me. For sure.
I was just about to say that too. Intention is like a huge thing too. But yeah, it's pretty. It reminds me of that one Atlanta episode where
I know what you're talking about.
What's that?
Where you went
like a food truck.
the rice jollof.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go get the jollof.
Where like Darius brings this girl to this place to eat this authentic food, and then basically she develops like, she's like, oh, dude, people would love this, and then she makes a food truck, and then basically runs the place that had served her food initially out of business because it's like more appealing, and then the marketing is like, what the heck happened? He's just like, what have I done?
Or, her food's all like vegan friendly, like, you know, just the craziest. Like, yeah,
Is that the same one where they had the like branding of like the they got in trouble for like the high fashion?
yeah,
Yeah, the raccoon mascot and all that.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's bad. I think let's get into it. I want to talk more about you, Alfonso Finito. So let the people know what you do.
That is something that I'm asked a lot, and it has only gotten more difficult to answer. I'm an artist, but a designer as well. Like, I love clothing. That's something that I'm very passionate about. Curating, something that I'm new to, but that's definitely something that I didn't know I would value as much as I do. Like, I have a friend named Mario. You know, he like runs Appointment Only. Shout out Mario.
Shout out Mario.
And out of Appointment Only, like, I've met so many different artists, creatives, musicians, like whatever. And something that Mario specifically taught me, because I've always seen him like left and right helping people, like whether it's a look by getting their clothing into a photo shoot or selling their work out of the store, sharing it on a story, however big or small it is. I've always seen him help people, and that is kind of like where I kind of got the idea to curate and do that kind of stuff, where I would always show my art at the store, and Mario was like, yo, treat this like it's your place, like you can do events here and stuff like that. And from there, that idea was born of like, let's do an art show. And, you know, I think the first one had like 3-4 other artists or something. It was smaller. And then I've slowly been building it up, and like with help from, like, I had a co-curator, Brie Flores, and she really helped me, like, you know, plan it out as well. So that is like a new passion of mine, where like being able to give people an opportunity to show their work and really make it about the artist is something that like I really like as well. But I don't know, like then I go back to my painting, and like my painting is a daily thing that I've been doing for 3.25 years. Every day I've like been making something. And so like that is, I think, kind of like the main engine to what I do. I love it. I love the like process of it, and that is kind of like where, you know, everything else branches off from. That's where curating came from. That's where, you know, clothing was always a part of my life, but I just didn't know how to like get to that point. You know, I was just kind of like, what do you do? Like,
yeah. You know you want to do it, yeah, but
who do I contact? And
yeah,
the idea felt so far away and foreign to me. I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, go fucking start hitting the phones and be like, yo, can you make shirts for me? Like, stuff like that. But, you know, along the way, I met, you know, Matthew, who runs like Mansfield Outposts and all these different clothing production companies. From him, we collabed the first time. He runs he reached out to me from his cricket brand.
okay,
And he was like, yo, you fuck with cricket?
yeah. Hey, you fucking with the cricket?
Sure, yeah. What's it called again? Like,
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it, but he kind of like showed me the way. I remember one of the first times I like hung out with him in person. We went to his office and he was like, come with me. Like, I need to go like run some errands. And I was like, sure. And he started introducing me to all the people that do his embroidery, his manufacturing, his cut and sew stuff. Like, before we even started like working on what we had going on, he was like, take their phone number down. This is like, you can reach out to them whenever. Like, you don't need to go through me. Like, this stuff like that. And like, that was like, I love people that moves like that, but I also didn't realize that I want to move like that. You know, like there was like those feelings and those intentions, but I never had seen someone do it or like verbalize it. And I was like, dude, like, that's sick. And then from him, like, I learned like, you know, what it takes to make like a hand cut sewn shirt, the process of that, screen printing versus heat print, like really give me the rundown, you know. And there have been other people like Art Chavez, who like has been doing screen printing for forever, who like has also taught me aspects of that. But again, like it all just kind of stems from like, yo, I fuck with your work. And then we start talking, and then, you know, we develop like all these crazy ideas. And yeah, it's art has really kind of gravitated and made me grow with just me loving what I do. Like and it's very strange because art was always kind of like a part of my life. Like my dad always had like Diego Rivera's, like the walls were naked ladies, like everywhere. All the time. It was like, this is art. Like, this is amazing. And I remember like we'd go to a lot of museums, and I hated them, dude. I was like, this is kind of cool, but like, I don't care. You know, like,
not appreciated.
It was like amazing.
Like museums, like just like, I feel like museums are like the sterile hospital of art. You know, like everything's really quiet. You know, it's just on a blank wall. There's like a docent who's like staring at you, like, hey, don't.
Hey, 10 feet back, buddy.
Small little hair that's right here. Don't cross that.
How'd you not notice?
Like, oh my goodness, right?
Yeah.
So you don't like being like museums.
I don't think I like. Well, one, I was a hater. I think I was a hater.
Number one.
That's so weird.
Yeah, right. Like, I think my capacity for appreciation was just very small. Like, I think I kind of like assumed, if I'm picky about what I like, if I like the best hip hop music, if I like the best fashion, that's the best. And it's just like a very simple way of thinking. And, you know, in my art, like in the practice of it, like I developed this like appreciation and love for like stuff that I can't do, stuff that I don't understand. Like at first I'd be like, all right, no, fuck that. Like,
yeah.
Who's Jackson Pollock?
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Like, you know, it was that like idea of like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was saying that about a lot of stuff, and I wasn't doing that. And being able like to, like, I'm not a huge fan of like realism when it comes to art, but I can understand and appreciate like the technique, the love that went into creating something like that, why somebody might want to gravitate toward that, and like seeing someone's, you know, their own relationship with their art made me appreciate it. I still wouldn't throw it in my house. Like, it's not something that like I really like.
It's not for you.
It's not for me, and that was something that I guess I didn't realize. And you know, there's that loss of like ego of like, it's not about me so much as what it is on its own.
Yeah.
It's like Transformer movies these days. They're not for you.
I'm not sure who they're for.
Anymore. I'm not buying these toys, you know?
So you said that so I guess art's always been a part of your life. The last 3.5 or so years you've been practicing this daily practice
Yeah.
of trying to create at least one piece of art or one painting a day. What motivated you to go about it that way and to kind of try and drive that level of, I guess, consistency? Like what even got you started to be like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this every day?
Wow, what a good question. So I guess I had been kind of flirting with art for like a long time. Like, I was like, "What's up?"
Yeah, you look kind of cute. Making eyes.
It's like that moment on Instagram where you see someone's story and you're like,
Yeah. You were putting the heart
here.
Yeah.
What's up? Are you up right now? You want to hang out? You want to hang out? Okay. All right. Screw this sketch. Right in the morning.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a painting.
Yeah, and like one major moment was like when I was in middle school, I was in jazz band. I was introduced to the idea of improvisation. I really loved it. Like, I'm a procrastinator. Like, yes, I don't want to prepare. Let me just think about it on the fly. But I remember at that age, like my parents were very much like, art is a hobby.
That's it. Yeah.
And like, I think that really like changed my perception of art, being an artist or anything like that. And I never, like, even at the start of it, before I started doing it every day, I didn't really see myself as an artist, I don't think. Even when I was doing it for like maybe a couple 100 days, I didn't see myself as an artist. I wouldn't introduce myself as an artist. I was just kind of like doing this thing. And I remember like my girlfriend at the time, she had just lost her stepdad. COVID had happened. I had lost my job. Like, so she had to like go back home, and I was just like alone. It was sealed off from the world. And it was like, God, the world's ending.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to wipe your ass.
Yeah.
Like, all this shit. And I was, I think I did like a piece, and I kind of posted on my story. I was like, what are some other album covers you'd want me to do? And I got like a ton of responses. So I was like, fuck it, what else am I doing? Like, let me do something today. So that's kind of how it started. And then I think I hit day 30. And I was like, see how long I can go, because like I was never really a diligent worker. I wasn't like studying. Like, that just wasn't what I wanted to invest my time in. I just that just didn't interest me, really. I didn't really ever feel like I was very like disciplined and stuff like that. I was very much like, look at that tree.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah. Look at that tree.
Yeah.
Damn.
And so like after those first 30 days, I was like, all right, let me keep going. Let me see how I do. And it just kind of kept going. Like I didn't have a job at the time. Like fucking unemployment was hitting.
Yeah.
Nobody's business.
Yeah.
I could really just focus on my art, and there was no intention behind it. I really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
Like there have been a couple like things that I've done in my life where I felt like I've been flying, and riding a bike was one of them. Like I just would bike for like an hour and a half and just like listen to music, and it was like my therapy. And art kind of became that. Like the process of it is just something where like my mind goes wherever it wants, essentially. And sorry, go ahead.
No, you can finish.
So, but like I, for a majority of my life, I studied like very math and science oriented. My parents were like, we came to this country for you to be rich.
Yeah.
No, like,
yeah, into work. Yeah.
What the fuck you think is happening right now? Yeah. Like, and as a first generation, like, immigrant, there's this like, well, you better fucking make it. We left our families and all this stuff. And so that was something that I gripped with a lot, like in terms of like what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. So like I studied software engineering in college. I was like, that's what I got my degree in. Like, that's what I was going to do. It kind of made sense. And yeah, there was nothing ever really in like industry that attracted me to the idea of a job. I'm just going to do it because I have to. This is a side effect of capitalism. Like, there's no other reason for it. And when I discovered art, it was the first time I found something where I was like, holy fuck, like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an immediate thing. It was through the practice of like really enjoying just doing it every day and finding a lot of peace in my art and developing that it's like falling in love.
Yeah.
Like you like somebody and they're cool, but like the more you get to know them, it's like it branches out and develops in a much more like substance filled way where like art was a lot of things for me, like it definitely was very therapeutic to do it. Like there was a bunch of times like when I was like doing art where I would just cry and it was like tears of joy. It was like, wow, I'm so lucky to have found this, to be doing this, to like, fuck yeah, like I'm just so happy about it. And so like my art is like just very selfish. Like I do it for me. But then when I get to the point of like releasing it to the world, that's when I feel like it's no longer mine. It's like I can't tell anyone, and I don't tell anyone ever like what's the meaning behind my art, because like I want to hear what you think, and your opinion is just as valid as mine. And I don't want someone to be like, well, I saw this, but it's like you saw a reflection of like how you feel or what you're thinking, your experience, and like that's more beautiful than like me telling you like it's this specifically, like and like
keeping it like open-ended to like, because people receive things differently and connect with things differently. So yeah, if you were to just like put out the meaning, then you don't really leave that freedom for people to explore what it could mean to them.
Yeah, and I think like just the fact that someone's willing to engage with my work is mind-blowing to me. Like here's this, I don't know, I feel like a little deranged goblin that's just like having the time of his life, like running around. Like you should see me when I do art. No one ever will, but like I dress like I there's no pants, just a boxer, a t-shirt, sometimes socks, sometimes not. And music blasting, like if I'm really feeling it, I'll grab like a plate of guavas and just have them out for like the scent. Like, but I look like a big ass Mexican Pooh Bear, just fucking like painting his whole
paint on the boxers, like
I'm in the mode.
Exactly, and
guavas are kicky.
Yeah, but they are sometimes.
I don't think I've ever heard someone just or like bring in a fruit to like give you the
aroma.
Yeah, and the funny part is that I don't even like guavas. I just said it's a smell.
Because I was like, hey, these guavas are rock. Throw them out. I'm done.
And low key, I keep them when they rot because they smell more. I'm like, it's so fragrant.
Rotty. Like he's just like covered in rotted guava.
Setting the creative tone though, or in the space is important. Whatever gets you in the zone. I remember hearing Pharrell. Someone was talking about working with Pharrell, and like Pharrell, anytime he works with an artist, he always makes sure that in the studio space, whatever track they're trying to create, that the space is filled with whatever that vibe is. So when he was working, Snoop was talking about this actually. So when he was working with Snoop, he had Snoop bring in all his like homies and shit there because they were trying to make G-Funk shit. And then when he was working with, he had like freaking Pitbull. He had Pitbull come through with all these like bad girls but like he always sets like whatever they're trying to create, he like sets the environment. So it's like helps get you in the zone. That's tight.
Yeah.
So are you like art is like a personal thing for you? Like did you ever see yourself like, doing like art in public? You're at an event and they have artists that are doing live art, like or is it too sacred for you kind of to like be
Great question. Again, like that's something that I think about here and there. Like I've been asked to do like, some live painting and stuff like that. And I was discussing it with I went to an art fair in Beverly Hills and had a ton of conversations, like 20, 30-minute conversations with a ton of artists about like what their relationship with art is. I think this was like year 1.5 or like maybe 2. And I was just curious, like, do you see someone's work and you're like, okay, how do you think of this kind of stuff? Or how does it get to that point? And all the people that like I had that 20-30 minute conversation, and I felt like I was really like being able to like take in what someone's relationship with their art was. Like it always boiled down to like one idea of like, I do whatever the fuck I want with my art, and I'm uncompromising about that. There is like, and that topic of like, do you like post clips, so you doing your work, and like I'll post clips and stuff like that. And sometimes when I do commissions, people will ask me like, hey, can you record the process? And I've gotten to a point now where I'm just like, no. And like I have done it in the past in terms of like posting clips and stuff like that, but like one, it takes me out of it, and two, it like the making art is for me. Creating it, that process is for me. Once I'm release it, it's the art, I don't even see it as mine or like do whatever the fuck you want with it. But I want to retain that relationship because of like, like I guess I didn't see it as sacred, but it really is to me. Like there has been a lot of moments where like I felt emotionally at my peak, where I've been very, very happy, and it's been there. There's been moments where I felt like incredibly, incredibly low. I have hated with the work that I've done, and like as I'm doing it, I just doesn't feel good, but it's still been there. And like that process of being frustrated and not liking it is a part of the process of like working on that relationship with my art, where like, and I think like that's where again like some of that consistency comes from as well, is like sometimes I make weak ass fucking shit, and that's a part of it, is like being able to still appreciate the act of doing it, you know, even though you hated it and didn't like it, is you still did it. You're done.
That's such a cool perspective, and like a great, I think, healthy way to like approach art, because I think, you know, it's so easy to get like really sucked in or frustrated in a feeling and let that like stop people from like continuing to do things. But when you have a perspective like that of like just understanding that this is a part of the process of doing it, that this is a part of like developing my relationship with art, I don't know, it's like it's a
Oh,
like way to approach it. And I hope more artists and everyone out there listen, you know, take that
for sure.
take that advice.
Since you've been on the journey of doing the daily, because it seems like as you've continued, these different elements and people have just kind of flown into your life since you started dedicating the time to doing this daily. In this process, what has been the most interesting thing to you about it?
I think like I think for a very long time, and this is both like artistically and not, like as a person, personal development and stuff like that, there was always this like idealized version of myself, whether it was like as an artist or like as an upstanding, you know, individual. And every time I would like reach these goals of things that I wanted to do, I would look up and like the guy was over there. I was like, fuck, I gotta go catch up, you know, like, and that idealized version of who I want to be is like next to me now. It doesn't feel like I'm still striving to be all these things. So being able to like feel that growth as I'm going through it, and like see myself from 3 months ago and being like, oh yeah, like I'm going up, and it's not in like this like I'm so fucking good and all these things, but it's like, man, I'm really proud of the person I'm becoming, and like I rock, like I stand by it, you know, 100%. And like I think seeing that as an artist, where like there was in my like first couple years when I would do like a big piece, you know, they take like anywhere from like 5 to like 8-10 hours sometimes. And sometimes around like hour 2, there'd be this little voice of like, what if it's whack?
You're like sitting there like pause for a second, like fuck.
And it's like, man, that color is trash, dude. Why'd you mix so much paint like that? Like, oh god. And those like thoughts would linger for like an hour or 2.
Wow.
And so like painting in that mode is like a little more difficult. And something that's been very interesting is seeing the time of doubt go down a little more. And on the most recent one, like on my like 3-year anniversary one, that thought entered my mind. And it was like when you're in a car and you see someone you know and you like wave, keep going. And it's funny, like I laughed. When that thought entered my mind, I just laughed because I knew whatever I was going to, like, it wasn't this, it didn't feel like cockiness. It didn't feel like this, you know, like, I'm going to be the fucking, it just felt like I know it's going to be dope. That's it. Like, and that's why I laughed, was like, here's this thing that I would go by every time and I would linger on it for so long. And now it's just like the tiniest
glides by.
Is it because, like, as you become more experienced in, like, your craft, you, like, know that there's these kind of checkpoints of, like, emotion that you kind of, like, hit? Where you're saying, like, you know, like, oh, it's a point where it's like, oh, this is me whack and whatnot. You, like, I know where my destination is. I'm just going to keep going. Like, you know that it's just kind of like a pit stop, or, like, kind of, you know, like one of those like, let's look when you're driving to Vegas, right? You know, it's just like one of those things that you see off to the side, but, like, you ultimately know, like, where you're headed, and through experience, you're kind of like, you now know how to cope with that. You're like, oh, okay, I see you, man. Like, later.
Yeah. It's very, okay, so we very much identify with the emotional checkpoints part. 100%. Like, it's a very emotional process for me. And I think that's why I feel so therapeutic, is like, depending on the music that I'm big on music. I'm always blasting music, and you know, it really, like, sometimes I'll listen to a song 30 times in a row, and it's because I get into a specific zone where it's like all my ideas are there, and I'm like using everything. There's moments where I feel just absolutely in touch with every step of the process, like down to the brush stroke, where I'm like, how the fuck does my hand move? There'll be moments where I will, like, put the paintbrush down and I'm like, you're nice.
Yeah,
you're nice. Like, but as far as like a destination, I feel like part of like the improvisation, like, I think, like, I saw some quote or something with like Nujabes in the background, like, you know, like those kind of like inspirational like things, but it was like I have no destination. Like, that's why I'm never lost. Something like that. And yes, I have developed like my skills better and stuff like that. But I think that there's never like, I know exactly where this is going to go. It's more so like I just trust where I'm going to take it. Like, I just know that, like, I don't know, like I've learned my taste even more. Like, now all those different little techniques that I've like worked on or seen someone else do, and like I was like, oh, this would look really cool in like this little aspect. And I think that where a lot of that joy comes from for me as well is not knowing. There's like I feel like a caveman. Like, imagine the first caveman discovering fire, and you're like,
Let's birds will shit.
Here's this thing. Like, one of the reasons why I loved math was like people explaining the world and then being like, I proved it. Like, you know, it's like this. I had this idea.
The equation.
Like it's like this idea of discovery of like, wow, here's this thing, but it's like intertwined with myself and my tastes and stuff like that. And so I wouldn't always say that there's a destination, but as far as the emotional checkpoints, like one.
Yeah. How would you, or I guess I'll put it like this, like, what inspires your art? Or what inspires what you like to create?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of main elements. Like, Mickey is like my first language. Like, you see it all the time. Like, anytime I want to like kind of fuck around with an idea, that's kind of like my comfort zone, and that's where I really base it out of. But there's also a lot of like, you know, campesinos. Like, my dad was always big on Diego Rivera's art. Diego Rivera's art really highlighted, you know, like Mexican workers, field workers, like, and that. So like, that's always a big element, and that's something that I've personally been able to see. And like, you know, like, you see it all the time, especially in the Valley, or anywhere you go in LA. Like, it's 103 degrees out, and the people working on the roof look like, you know, it's like, that those kind of like you can empathize very well with that, and I think that's another reason why I highlight it in my art, where there's like this beauty to it. But also I love like beautiful, cute things of all kinds. So it's like there's also flowers. Like I think flowers are really beautiful, and that's something that like I've learned to appreciate myself. Like when I see a flower now, I'll stop and smell it, and like stuff like that. I really like clouds. I think that like, stems back to the idea of like flying and stuff like that. Sunsets have always been like a big thing. Like I don't think I can necessarily like look an incredible sunset, but I really appreciate sunsets. So that's why I think I incorporate clouds and a lot of different things. But I also love fashion. So like sometimes when I'm like thinking of a t-shirt I want to make, like that also influences how I want to approach things. But also people, like another thing that I think art has kind of like taught me is like I'm so interested in people. Like I want to learn about like what makes people tick, why people are passionate. Like that's usually one of my first questions is like, what do you love? What are you passionate about? Like what's that thing that you like makes your fucking like heart like glow and shit like that? Like because those, I think, like when you get to see someone do something that they really love, you're seeing them like in their prime. What it is, like, you can see like when you see someone that really loves dance, you're like, wow,
They're just
it's
tuned in.
it's like this
in the
like
space.
Flow state, like,
exactly.
people get in their flow states. I was gonna ask, like it seems like you have like really good awareness about things, and even like catching like your negative thoughts and stuff like that. Did you like I want to ask like what's your relationship with like understanding your thoughts, because or like have you done like or I know that's crazy.
No,
but,
that's
like,
a good question.
Or like do you like how do you like work on yourself? It seems like you just have like a
Thoughtful person.
like you understand different things.
So I feel like I've always, I don't know, I've just really grown in terms of like wanting to define myself. But like I think I was very much like you build that like 21-year-old ego, and you're like, I'm set. Like I don't need to grow. I'm not reading.
My job's done here.
Like
I'm done learning.
yeah, I know everything. I refuse. Like when Google asks me like, would you like to know more about that?
No,
I'm good.
I'm good. I know how to ride a motorcycle.
But like I guess I just realized like I don't know, like I wanted to be a more like caring and understanding person, and I didn't realize like how far away from that I was. Like obviously like I'm not some fucking like
Terrible monster. Yeah, they're like
see a
kicking
kid on
little
the street.
kids.
The goblin.
But like yeah, like I just didn't realize about like I guess I had this understanding of the world, and I was like, okay, but you don't understand it, so like you're not understanding it as well, like get the fuck out.
Is that like a contrarian belief kind of thing? Or it's like
yeah, I think there's aspects of that. I
Okay.
think there was also like wanting like I listen to the best music, and I dress better than anyone.
a curator mindset where it's like
Yeah,
you have like you think of yourself as the top tier, most priority, and then if anyone has any contesting views, you kind of like, no, you don't know what you're
Or maybe even just like you just everyone lives like I've been like having conversations lately about like just you kind of live through our own like lens of the world, right?
exactly.
And then when you start like looking at that lens, then you just like, oh, like you can like see how you view things and how there's so many other ways to like view a situation or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like another like layer or way of like or level of living when you like can consider that the lens that you see things is not the only lens that exists.
Looking top down instead of straight on, so you
Yeah.
can get a 3D map.
Someone who is saying it's like the reason why you should be kind to others is because every other person in this world is just you in a different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
It's like a different like string theory kind of multiverse, Spider-Verse kind of thing. Or it's like like that could be me.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm honking at someone in road rage and it's an old Asian man. I'm like, that's just me. Yeah, that's me. I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna be 65 and like this guy's just honking in the truck. And I'm like, that's me.
Yeah. I'm Kevin.
Right? You know, but to have like that, I feel like that self-awareness and to like kind of empathy and put yourself in other people's shoes is almost a superpower in today's day and age, because you have that heightened sense that like, hey, like I can understand where you come from. I can see why you don't buy croissants in like, you know, Cafe de Leches, one house type place. You know, I get it, right?
Yeah.
But like, unless you put yourself in other people's shoes, you just have this one like narrow-minded kind of view of the world, and you can't really like pivot it to be like, oh, like, well, you know, maybe I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Probably helps with the art and creation too. For fashion,
Did you have something to say about it?
Well, I mean, I have a lot to say about it,
Ooh,
but
please,
I mean, I feel like like, you know, you have all these theories about how kind of the world works, and I think I just lessened that definition. Like, it was very much like, all right, this is what it's like, but then I realized, like, dude, who am I to say, like, this is the way to live? This is, like, I've been able to just appreciate more. And I think through that appreciation of, like, people being different, people, like I feel like I would definitely try to convince people about certain opinions that I had. And, like, when there wasn't that agreement, it's like, oh, damn, like, judge you, like, well,
feeling away about that.
women shouldn't have abortions, asshole. Like, like, shit like that. And, like, I still think abortions should be, like, you know, readily available to anybody. But, like, there's no point to holding on to that resentment and that disagreement about how someone views the world, because who the fuck am I to tell you how to view your world? You know, I just kind of believe that, like, being understanding and caring and empathetic to other people, and, like, it is difficult to be alive. It is so hard. like, let's not even, like, we don't even have to get into capitalism. We don't have to get into, like, social perception of being successful and shit like that. But, like, to, like, are you happy? Like, it's like that. It's like, okay, are you happy now? Like, now, oh, the world's ending. Are you still happy? It's like, it's hard. So for me, I can't ever rationalize, like, let me make it harder.
Yeah.
This guy, like,
Come on.
no, and like, it's like, if I can be a person that, you know, can make someone's day easier just by being nice and, you know, treating a person like a human being as, like, who they are, I can't rationalize being any other way. Like, I don't want to be any other way. I don't expect anyone else to be the other way, but if I can, you know, be that person in a person's day that, like, oh man, that person was kind to me, it's like, why like, I'd be an asshole not to do that in my eyes. So that's kind of why I think I've opened up my mind to just not really, like, view things so, like, yes, no, it's more so like, oh, look at that thing.
It could be, it's like layered. Things can be, I don't know, simple or complex.
You never know what someone's going through.
Yeah.
And, like, the reason why they make certain decisions, you know, because there's no manual for life. And there's so many ways to, like, rate, or, like, are you living a good life? You know, like how you say, like, monetarily, or just by pure happiness, or just, you know, any kind of other measuring stick that is also kind of developed out of, like, culture or society. But, like, to be comfortable with just bettering yourself and who you are and showing empathy and kindness, it's a really great perspective to have.
Yeah. And manga. I've been reading a lot of
manga. Oh yeah. So how much manga have you been reading? I think I've been reading a lot more.
Like, like, all of it, like, everything you could ever imagine. Like, I understand it better than you probably. Just
Are you reading it in the original Japanese or right to left? Are you getting it translated via manga panda? Because I actually could help you with that if you'd like to learn hiragana and katakana. No. I get all my stuff from imported, you know.
straight from the source. I read the leaks.
I think it's
Interesting how, because there are new Spider-Verse movies coming out, and the reason why the first one was so amazing, apparently this new one's incredible too, is because a lot of the kids who are growing up on anime are now the animators in these studios.
That's
And
nice.
so a lot of it has this kinetic energy, and even the storylines, the plots. Like, I think it's cool that manga, anime, that I feel like, especially for brown people in America, there's something about the storylines and the values around like friendship, overcoming hardships, like a lot of just kind of life lessons packed in that really resonates with like black and brown people. A lot of people of color. I mean, resonates with people of all types around the world, but even
It's different.
because now like
It's different.
now like anime is a lot more like it's like mainstream, like pop.
Yeah, dude. Why is every like hip hop beat tape like a Sasuke like?
Yeah, you know.
When did Sasuke become like the overall like sad hip hop?
He's
like,
been since day one,
like
but
over time.
But I just noticed since even from the 90s, I just remember there was always the black kids, the Mexican kids, everybody was like been watching and really resonating with anime. So it's just, I think like, because we're talking about just these different kind of, what would you call them, principles?
For sure.
Are just kind of spilling over into, I don't know, it's healthy that we're getting a dose of this type of content.
So what were you saying about manga? Like you just to bring it back.
So there, I mean, I feel like
you're doing a lot, right?
at first I was just like, I want to see some cool fights. You know, Naruto versus.
I don't even know what's going on. What?
But I have a friend, Justin. He's like been reading manga his whole life, and he was always trying to get me to read. And I was like, "No, you're a nerd. Like, you read manga? Get a load of this guy. Like,
Nerd. Look at this guy. He's holding the book backwards.
Doesn't even know how to read right.
he doesn't. Yeah,
He's on the wrong side of the street.
yeah." But like, there just have been certain manga that I've read that, like you were saying, these life lessons. Like, there was moments of like overcoming, you know, adversity and like Black Clover, like, you know, pushing your limits, and like I really like Blue Lock, and there's like this. That was the first time I discovered the idea of flow state, and I was like, oh shit, look at this. But then there's also like I've been getting more into like Vagabond, and like I really like Kingdom, and my friend made me read like Pun Pun, like all these like really wicked like ideas, and like it was interesting. Like Vagabond is about the samurai that is like really honing his craft, or he's not even a samurai. He's like he just fucking shit up. Yeah, he's like a Ronin. Yeah, and like he has this obsession with being the best, and he wants to just be the best swordsman, and he like slowly develops like this, I don't even know like how to describe it, but he realizes that like he has a conversation with this like elder, and he asks him like, what's being like undefeated under the sun, like being the best at what you do, the greatest under the sun. And he was like, those are just words. And he loses this like need or want to be the best. He's like, it's about the relationship with his craft and developing that, and like it's very introspective. It's like really makes you like think about, you know, how you want to define yourself. And it like there's just been small aspects in these different mangas that I've read that have, you know, helped me focus in on whether it's a certain aspect of life, or like surpassing your limits in art, or like all these different things where I was never much of a reader, but I've started reading a lot of manga, and through there I've like just, you know, taken these lessons that I guess were kind of just like, you know, ruminating in my mind, but then now they're like, oh, like, how do you feel about this? And like that, you know, teaches you a little bit about yourself and how you view things.
That's so cool, because I was curious, because I was like, I wonder if he's like kind of figured this stuff out like on his own through his experiences with like, you know, maybe like his family or people have like conversations that can kind of get you thinking in this way. So it's really cool to hear that that's how you're able to pull some of this type of like stuff that gets you thinking in that way. It's kind of interesting though, like you know, when you're in school, maybe you have like some assignments where it asks you like, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
But after a certain point, you know, it's really, you don't really have like conversations that are really getting you to like think deeply about like who you are, who you want to be. You probably, you know, for me, like, I know I've had thoughts about it. Like I have an idea of the person that I want to be, but it isn't until recently that I started reading like some kind of self-improvement type of books and stuff where it's, you know, it asks you like, what does that person look like? Or it just,
Yeah.
you know, gives you kind of some exercises to go through. And it's kind of, I'm like kind of realizing that like I haven't even been in that headspace for so long. Like I've kind of just been like floating through life, as like what you were saying, you know, just kind of floating through.
Just doing it.
And it's just, yeah, it's really cool. I've been like having a lot more conversations with like friends and stuff on the same like ideas and concepts, and I just feel like it was missing for like so long. And it's just really cool that the information is out there in different forms. And
Yeah.
Moving with intention. I want to talk about fashion because are the pieces that you're wearing,
Just this one right there.
it's fly.
But yeah, thank you. It since high school, like I think in high school, I read Into the Wild, and I was like, I'm gonna base my whole personality around this shit. Like, I think I didn't realize that, you know, I had been really formulating myself to live the life of making my parents proud. Don't get me wrong, that's something that I value, but like they've always like, you know, supported me and wanted me to be successful, but like I had to define what that meant for me. And I hadn't for forever. And I always I was very emotional. I was a crybaby as a kid, like definitely like an emotional kid, but I just didn't really know how to like process that, like, you know, really just kind of like talk about what it is that I wanted, who I wanted to be. Like I think those were ideas in my mind, but I just didn't know how to process any of that. And then I read Into the Wild, and it was this whole like idea of like rejecting all these like perceived ideas of success and all these different things. And like, here was this guy that was doing exactly what he wanted to do, and that was like a wild concept. Free will?
Yeah.
No, what? You could do this? So I definitely was like, I'm going to start dressing different. I'm going to, you know, get my swag going. And I was big on buying like these like golf sweaters and like these grandpa sweaters. Errol was like, bro, why are you wearing those grandpa ass sweaters? Everybody was in their Abercrombie and Fitch like this, like that era, like Hollister, like that
American Eagle.
Like you would walk into those stores and you would be like body shamed and it would smell bad. That's all I remembered from that.
Smelled bad because of all the color. Everyone just like sampling. Well, remember when they used to have like half naked like white dudes, just stand out
It's going on.
like just weird. They make fun of it, and like neighbors like, dude, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm a Abercrombie model. It's like I just hang out at the mall with my nipples. Isn't it cold? Of course, it is duh, right? It's such a weird era. So you're wearing these like old like
like
the style that's it now.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so strange because like I was rocking this, and this was right before, like, this is like maybe like 2-3 years before the Macklemore thrift era. And I can go into that for several hours about how he ruined thrifting, and that's where Depop stemmed from. Like, we'll talk about that in another podcast. But like, I loved thrifting. My dad took me all the time when I was a kid. I didn't appreciate it back then. I was just like, it stinks in here. Get it out. Smell. But you start finding all these crazy clothing, and you're like, oh shit, like this is something like I've never seen before. And I gained like a big appreciation for like fashion and just like, you know, seeing a knit sweater like that is designed in a certain way that you don't see around anymore due to like, you know, mass producing stuff like that. And that's where like, that's when I really started messing around with my style and kind of like, you know, thinking of the swag I wanted to do. And it was always just kind of a part of my life. But like, again, I thought like you need to have $10,000 and like, you know, develop all these things. But I've like, I feel more comfortable now in fashion in general, where like I know what I like now and I know how to like put it together. But I've now in the realm of like, man, I just really like, that's one of my goals this year is to like make something. Like I make clothing, but it's always one-on-ones, and like I want to like develop like a complete thought, I guess, and like put it out. And again, like it's like an inherently selfish thing. Like I don't generally think about an audience. It's just, this is what I think is dope, which is like, there are moments of doubt where I'm like, but there's like you're selling it.
Yeah.
So like there are moments where I'm like kind of like still trying to figure that out, because I would say that aspect is like a newer relationship for me in art of like, I don't know how I'm gonna exactly go about this, but being around people that are always like making clothing, and like, I was seeing all these like people go for it, and I'm like, yeah, it's like now it's my turn to do that and
exciting.
Like, put the stuff together that I want to.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's really tight.
Right?
How's your process of curating? So like,
It's hard.
and initially, how did that first opportunity go? Where you kind of first like were like, all right, I'm gonna.
Yeah, so I would like, it's weird. Like I don't like the idea of themes. Like and that's another thing about my relationship with art, clothing, and everything else as well. Like I just don't believe in the idea of like, this is how you should do things. I'm stubborn. Like I want to fuck up, make mistakes in the ways that I want to do them, and I want to make those, like, I'm not stubborn where like I won't pivot if something's not working, but I want to present it how I'm going to present it, regardless of like, that might not be the best marketing move or some like stuff like that. It's just like, this is my perception of it. It goes back to the idea of discovery of like, this is my idea. I'm going to go about it this way. And then, on the next couple runs, you're like, oh, okay, I want to do it, tweak things here and there. But I'm definitely big picture, and like, I think of like, all right, this is what I want to do, so I just do it.
Yeah.
And then in that process, I'm like, oh, fuck, I should have done this, I should have done that.
Work the details as you go along.
Yeah. And so that first time, like, I wasn't necessarily thinking of like, let me bring this group of people together because they represent these different things. And maybe I should have been more thoughtful about that process, but I don't know. It's like, because I appreciate so much now, I can find something to appreciate in almost everything. So it's like difficult for me to be like, okay, this, and that. But it's like, no, like, let's see the little world that this person created, and let me show that as well. So for me, it's just like, I guess like my standard is like, do you fuck with your shit heavy? You can see when someone dedicates that time and that energy and that, like, you can tell they're feeding.
They care.
You can feel it too.
Yeah, and it's like, again, it might not be some shit that you fuck with, but you can't fuck with someone that's like on
Really
their
found it.
and like, that is, again, that's inspiring. So that's kind of like what I look for, is people just like pouring themselves into what it is that they love to do. And like, that, I think, is like, maybe that's my theme, is like finding people that you can tell are really passionate about it and want to go about it in different ways. And everyone's relationship with their art is different, so I don't need it to replicate mine at all. I just like, whatever it is, if you do art once a month, if you do art maybe like twice a year or some shit like that, there's still like, absolutely, no, that's like, that's exactly what it is. It's like, wow, like, to whatever life experiences you've gone through, whatever the talent you have, that's what you brought into the world, and you're sharing it, and like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Taking a step, because a lot of people want to but don't, or they feel the urge but are afraid to start, or they don't know where to start, and that makes them more afraid to like start.
No, I think that so like, the consistency is a cheat code. Like, there's so many days when I come home and I've worked my 9 to 5 and I'm like, dude, I have no fucking ideas. All I want to do right now is hop on a video game and shoot stuff. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to shut my brain off and do it. But like, nah, I got to. So in doing that, like, there is no room for that, like, where the fuck with it? It's just like, I gotta keep going.
I'm gonna do
Yeah, but there are moments where like I think like, man, like what would it be like to not do it every day and be much more measured with, you know, my work, but I just enjoy it too much not to.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not really about like, for me, that like being this consistent person. It's just, I like
I
do.
love it. Yeah. What a like match made in heaven.
Exactly.
And I think it's like with working out, like the more reps you do overall is going to impact better. Like, you know, instead of doing one 5-hour workout, you doing like 40-minute workouts, but it's 7 days a week. You're going to ultimately be doing like 10 times as many. The practice you're getting, or just even, you know, it still ultimately all builds and adds.
And I always remind people like, dude, every single like masterpiece is already inside of you. How are you going to get it out? And like, you can take in stuff and all this, but the shit you make, that's all you. Like, you can have influences and all this other shit, but you're still creating this new idea and pushing it out, and only you can do that. Like, anyone else's shit is gonna have their flavor on it. It's like, present your dish. Like, it doesn't matter, bro. Like, the plating doesn't have to be perfect, but it's gonna taste good. Like, so yeah, like, and in that, like, you're always cooking, you're gonna come up with like different shit here and there, and like, you're gonna bring it out that way. So like, I do think it's like, it's a cheat code, because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Whether you do, like, you put 30 bad pieces out, that next day you can hit gold and you can strike something that goes crazy.
I saw something recently, and it was about like, let your errors be your guide.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, you know, because like our society like looks at failing and failure as like such a bad thing. It can only be bad. You're like, that's how I feel like we were raised. Like, if you fail at something, it's just like,
You suck.
it's just bad. Like,
Why are you sucking?
yeah. But like, if we could just look at it in a way of like, that's something that you can learn from, like, oh yeah, I felt here, but now I know not to do that. That's just one, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like the perspective of how we like approach things is pretty interesting. And you know, like with you practicing all the time, you're going to be learning something. It could be the smallest little things, you know, all that time you're getting closer to just like, you know, your true,
Yeah, no, I mean,
true, you know, mastering of something.
there have been so many moments where like I do something and I'm not happy with it, but there is a single aspect of a little corner of little shading or some shit that sparks an idea, and the next day I'm like, oh man, like I turned this little tiny idea into something that is like
Satisfying.
Yeah,
Happy accidents.
exactly. And I tell everybody like, all my mistakes are intentional. Like, oh, that mistake, that's just part of my stuff. That was meant to be there. Like, because it's like,
Kind of.
I do believe, yeah, mistakes happen, but like,
It's the same idea of like failing forward.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of like, because I do get what you're saying, and I hear you in the sense that like, yeah, failure is really bad, but let's face it, all the people who are super successful have failed at so many things.
yeah,
You know, people who are strong have like failed on reps and sets. People who are like Elon Musk have failed at like different businesses.
yeah,
You know, there's all these things, but we only see like the highlight, right?
Oh.
You know,
that's
as you,
what people care about.
yeah, and then as you say, with like, you know, you doing dailies, there's probably times where you're like, I hate this piece.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm like, this is terrible, but like, just improving 1% in some area would kind of like helps, you know. But it's great to see that you like see that light, see that little like, you know, silver lining of things, and kind of keep pushing.
Yeah, and it like, it's funny, like the improvement isn't always in, you know, like sometimes art is like a well where I'm pulling for myself and like, you know, going about it that way. Sometimes it's a plant where there's like fruit and I get something from it and I water it and it gets me more fruit, and it goes like that. And sometimes it's nothing. Like, just some Mexican dude putting oils on fucking paper. Like, that's it.
Yeah, that's all it is for the day.
It's like, today at the Broad, we have a series of paintings by a Mexican dude putting oils. That's the description. Yeah, that would be hilarious.
Yeah,
You get to like a LACMA or something like that. Like, oh wow, it's ingenious. It's so simple.
and it's very funny because like there's I don't know, sometimes people talk to me like I'm some sort of like, Charlie was dumb, And I'm like, dude, there's nothing. So literally, but
You know, still asleep on the
we're all like in old dudes running through like forest and surrounded by flowers and stuff like that. And it just, I'm literally just like a robot. Like,
little bird that like dips its beak in the water.
that's all it is. And I'm that little bird just like flopping around in the water.
Yes.
What are you excited for as far as what you're doing with the fashion, the art, the curating, like
It's creation.
all this creation? What's seems exciting for you? Looking forward to the future.
I want to work with more people, collaborate and all these things. Like I'm slowly learning that I don't love the idea of like commissions. Like, yeah, it's weird. I've just always been a little bitch where like
Cool.
people tell me to do something and I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Don't. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you $50 to not make me a painting.
Fuck that. I'm gonna make it for free.
Yes.
There's just always kind of been that stubbornness, and maybe I need to grow in that aspect. But like, there have been times where, again, like the process is selfing. Like it is about creating this idea that I want to create, and it feels better.
Well, let me ask you this: when it is a commission, because it's someone be like, "Hey, do this," does it automatically make it not your own because it's like their idea and it's not for you?
Yeah.
It's for them. It's directly for them, for money.
Yeah.
So you kind of like it's about. We'll give you money to buy.
Like right from the beginning, it's like already.
It's not like, hey, yo, I fuck with your shit. It's like, hey, like I'm gonna tell you to do this, right?
Yeah.
So then if it's not like, can you like do this like one little thing? I don't really like this right there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, fuck it, I'm done. Here's your money back. What's your Venmo? What's your Zelle?
Wow, you're really speaking to my part.
Well, because you kind of, I mean, in the first kind of like how the potty is just discussing how like it is for him,
Yeah.
but something that is not for you initially, and you can't put your full soul in it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's definitely been like a tug of war where there have been moments where like someone will be like, make this. And in my head, there's this little, that goblin comes out. And it's like,
The goblin.
no, don't do that. Fuck that. You know, like this guy. Like it's just a very tiny goblin that like was like, I'm not fucker. Like, and I've like, you know, there's those moments of like, I'm gonna own this. This is gonna be like, it could be your idea, but it's gonna be mine.
Yeah.
And like, you either like it or you don't, essentially.
And there's
But that is something that I've had to learn, and that relationship has been different. Like
Like your boundaries. It's like discovering what your boundaries are with your art and how you want to like
absolutely.
share that space.
I didn't know I had boundaries in my art. I didn't know it was something that I had to be like, because it's like I was that artist, you know, I just viewed myself as an artist. I was just doing art, and then someone was like, can I buy this?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Can I buy? Yeah, I feel
What? Like, and so it is a small business, you know. There are like, you do have to kind of stand your ground on certain things and stuff like that. And I guess I just wasn't as aware. So there were times where, yeah, I'll just fucking make whatever you want, you know. Cool. But I think like that relationship is changing more. It's more defined now for me, where I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I like it. No.
Learning how to say no.
And it's weird because it's like, I don't, on one hand, there's like, wow, here's this person that appreciates my work enough that they want to pay me for it. That is humbling as an artist, because you're like, wow, like,
Yeah.
someone appreciates my work enough to give the money they've made to me, to do what I love. Like, that's a blessing, and I appreciate that. But it's also like the water gets murkier, where you're like, this isn't the version of what I love being truly. It's like these other different things. And like, I've learned a lot in those processes where, like, you know, I have to, like, my mind has to work in an avenue that I would never work in. And because of that, like, now my skill set's a little wide.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, again, like, regardless of doing something, you can learn from it. And like, you still gain something from it. But I think that relationship is being defined differently to me now. So that's why like I'd like to collaborate. I'm not sure how much more I want to do commissions and stuff like that, because it doesn't feel as collaborative as, a collaboration.
It's transactional.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's my email. I'm gonna send you a couple ideas, and then you this money, and then whatever. But like for collaboration, you're like kind of like having talks, having
Synergy. Creating something that's
unnecessary Zoom meetings. You're just constantly going.
Interdependent.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The productive dependency, where it's you still maintain your individuality, but also you capitalize off of the teamwork to create and do even more.
Yeah.
So it's like building on top of each other to make the bridge. It's really awesome. We're actually getting towards the tail end of our time here for this pod. Is there anything coming up that you would like to share with the people, or maybe anything you got in the works, or anything kind of looking forward to?
I definitely I want to start working on this next art show. Not just not sure when it'll be. But
just posted.
Yeah, I'm also always learning to appreciate more things. So like other artists, if you want to reach out to me, like send me your work so I can like start checking your stuff out. Like I want to be connected to more artists.
What's your gram? Where can I find you at?
Finito Juarez. So FINITO JUAREZ. That's it. That's my Instagram. But like, I'm always looking to work and connect with other creative people that are doing the shit that they love. So that is kind of like my goal right now, but hope to get clothing out this year. And also, kind of want to develop like a artist creative mixer, get a bunch of creative people together.
I like that.
Put them all in the same place, because something I realized at the art show was like, here's all these dope people, but I was so busy running around doing art show shit that like I couldn't necessarily give everybody the time, but like I want to hear it all.
Yeah.
Like I see what people's relationship with their artwork is. So
Incredible.
that's on my way.
Yeah. Follow him at Finito Juarez at Instagram and other socials as well. What we like to do at the tail end of each pod is we like to give final thoughts. So whatever advice or thoughts or whatever's on your mind that you would like to share with the people, a lot of times it's just a little positivity, a little love, little words of what we're kind of thinking or going through. Anybody want to take lead?
Be the change. Sorry.
I don't mean to laugh. I don't mean to laugh. He's about to say some inspiring ass shit. I can tell.
Change you want to see in the world. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully it makes dollars.
I feel you on that.
That's a hard bar.
Okay, it's like this idea about like realizing whether what you have are assumptions on something or fact. I've been like having conversations about this, and pretty much, a lot of times we, may experience something and we assume that maybe this is how the other person feels about it, or we can jump to assumptions so easily. But if you can like practice just being aware of if this is like an actual, real thing, or something that you're kind of creating in your mind that you believe, but, you can't really say is true or not, then you should probably, be more cautious of like the actions that you take moving forward. But yeah, just kind of being aware of like, is that an assumption that I feel about this situation, or do I know that this is fact?
Yeah.
And I think like when you realize it's an assumption, just it's easier to like let it go and kind of like move forward like better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been something I've been practicing, and it's been like a freaking game changer. Like, is this an assumption, or do I really know this is fact? And then I'm like, well, I don't know, so let me just let that go.
Yeah.
And then I feel freer, and I'm like, okay, I was like creating this worry or these negative thoughts of like something that I'm assuming and actually don't even.
And then it works out great.
And I just let that shit go. I'm like, wait, that's an assumption. And I just let it go. And I'm like, all right. And if it's, really matters, then I'll go speak to the person or whatever it is and figure out whether it's fact or not. And just communication and, get like clarification on things before, moving off of something that I don't even know is really real.
Nice.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thanks, Seb.
Oh yeah.
My last thought would be to explore with intention. And I think that there's a lot of messages that we get throughout life, and it's advice and ways to kind of structure your worldview that will really help you survive and maintain and kind of maneuver through a lot of life's challenges. But a lot of the times when we're getting these messages, it's hard to hear them because we're so in the sauce of whatever we're going through that it could be 5 different people throughout your life that said essentially the same thing, but it wasn't until the 5th time when you're finally like 33 that you're like, oh shit, that makes sense. So I would say be active in your intention to learn. So that way, instead of having this kind of closed-minded approach of maybe eventually resonating with the message, taking control and actively going out to find the message for yourself, whether it be through reading self-help books or just hearing from talking to therapy, whatever it may be, just kind of being an active participant in trying to help understand yourself and the world around you. I think it'll do a lot. That's my final thought. Please, Alfonso, let the people know what you're thinking.
Okay. Advice is a interesting topic for me because it's hard for me to believe in it because I don't know. I gained so much from finding things out myself, so I won't be like do this. But if you can make someone's day easier, do that for yourself and to the stuff you love. Like even in those I have $6 in my bank account moments when I was doing my art, I was still happy. And tend to your garden. Mental health is very important, and it's difficult to be at your best if you're not at your you're not doing well and taking care of yourself in whatever ways you need to take care of yourself. But yeah, just do what you love. I don't think you can miss if you're doing that. So
Wonderful.
big thanks.
It's been such a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank
Alfonso Finito Juarez, you're an amazing person. Thanks for coming through, and we would love to have you again. It's been really wonderful.
Whenever you guys need me, hit me up.
Guys, this has been the Dipped Podcast. We're back, baby. We back.